just dive right into our first speaker. We've got Andrew Binkley, who is CEO of Constellation One, and we're going to talk about standards across borders. Thanks for coming up, Andrew. I think I need to stay here. No, I don't. So
thanks so much for having us here. Great location. I really enjoyed the lazy river last night. It was 8 o'clock, so I was lazy river, but I recommend it.
that's why we're here, to have a good time. So yeah, sorry for being away from you in the corner here, but thanks for being here. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, again, we talked about the data consumer as our North Star, and why Constellation One, which is a multi-country organization, an international organization serving brokerages, why you would be heavily involved in RESO from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we really want to be involved with RESO is because we benefit so much from RESO's work. We recently kicked off a new data aggregation project. I don't know if the audience is familiar with Constellation, but we're a major investor in and acquirer of software companies. And today we've bought in residential real estate software about 19 different companies, and that's on top of the 650 others we've bought in other areas of software. And every time we buy a residential real estate software company, we look at the data aggregation systems that they're using because they make good software, we need good data. We kind of scratch our heads and think, oh, that one's, it's not quite great, it's not perfect, that's not really what we want. So recently we decided we're going to build a new one from scratch. We hired a great team, Rick Rare this year, helped really spearhead the development of that system. And we built it pretty quickly. And one of the reasons we managed to build it quickly is because of the level of standardization that RESO has helped push with Red API and the dictionary. It's way easier now ingesting data from the MLSs. And we're really fortunate because there's actually, we often say it's a problem, but it's actually a good thing. There's only about 500 data sources you have to go to get national data coverage. So I think that's one of the reasons we really like RESO, because we benefit a lot from this work.
So you said there's only about 500 data sources. And we've talked a little bit about this idea of centralized data versus decentralized. And I think a lot of brokerage companies, and the reason aggregators exist is because that's a lot of organizations to get data from. Can you talk a little bit about, as a technology company, the way you see decentralized versus centralized systems in the MLS space?
For sure. So, if I think about a decentralized system, we do the data aggregation for HomeServices.com. So that means we gather all the listing data. And so doing it in the US, we go to the MLSs. RESO, it's pretty straightforward. It's good. When we're taking in data from your European affiliates, it's brokerage by brokerage, right? There's no MLS. It's hard to get a broad set of listing data. And it's also very difficult to bring in that data because every broker seems to have their own format in Europe for how they like to present listing data. And so that's some of the differences we see. We recently did a project with Redfin. So we're now the data provider for Redfin. We signed a contract with Redfin nationally. And because of RESO, because of the MLS system, we were able to get that project done really, really quickly. And that's good for us. It's good for Redfin. We can agree on the schema and the payloads quite easily. But it's also really good for US consumers. The reason Redfin came to us was because they want to enter more markets more quickly. And a big part of that's getting the right listing data. And so because of standardization, because of the MLS's centralizing data, Redfin is now able to enter more markets more quickly. And that's a benefit for the consumer because Redfin has a unique value proposition that's different than other brokers. It's great. We've got a wide variety of brokerage business models in the US. And now more consumers in the US are going to be able to take advantage of that. So I think that's, think about the European experience versus the US experience from a consumer perspective. Okay, so you're a home buyer in Europe. How are you supposed to find homes when you buy? How are you supposed to find an agent representative? It's not easy. It's often word of mouth. It's not a great home search process. And think about it from the perspective of a home seller in Europe. It's very similar. It's hard to get top dollar for your house because it's hard to find that seller. And you compare that to the US. I mean, I know it's really important we execute and keep moving RESO forward.
And I know when we're here, we've obviously got different organizations. We're naming individual business partners that are part of this process. And we have this thing that we talk to all of our sellers about, all of our speakers about, which is not selling from the stage, which is not what we're doing. Because this conversation here, I think is really critical to where we still are and how much work we still have to do. That a large technology company that is a brokerage organization that has venture capital is still looking for a partner to make the data aggregation simpler for them. So that's really why we thought you'd be a critical organization to talk to us about kind of where we are in that stage of still making it simpler for data consumers. So let's talk a little bit more about the North American experience. You're a Canadian, your organization works a lot in Canada and US. It's really the only place in the industry where we have significant MLSs. What's your experience across the border with the development of standards thus far?
I mean, it's much closer to the US experience than the European experience. When we go to ingest data, there's a lot of echo right now, isn't there? When we go to ingest data for Canadian affiliates and Canadian brokerages, it's great. We can go to the MLS. We've got a single source. We get all the listing data. I'd say the standardization is not as far along in Canada as it is in the US. Of the 12 large MLSs in Canada operating in different provinces and territories, only 2 of them are RESO compliant. And it's also, I would say, a lot more of a go fish operation, trying to find out which data fields are available under which agreements. Trying to get historical data is a bit more of a challenge. So, the recent analytics that RESO is announcing, where you can see actually what's available under different license agreements, from my perspective, that's really a step in the right direction. We spend, I would say, the majority of our time not normalizing the data, but trying to figure out what data is available. And given that we've got some very old MLS agreements, for instance, through Top Producer, which is one of our companies, and we're still trying to figure out what data is out there, I think that's a huge opportunity for the industry. And it's not that we're asking that the data be available for all use cases, just that it be clear what data is available for which use cases.
And the multilingual situation where you've got certain provinces where you're not only benefiting your customer by having a layer where there's a different language for them to interpret the data with, but required by law in some areas. How we worked with Canadian Real Estate Association to add a French Canadian layer to the data dictionary recently. How do you see that progress going from a standards-based data feed perspective?
I mean, from our perspective, it's welcome. We do aggregate data from Quebec, which is the French-speaking, predominantly French-speaking area in Canada, and there's also different pockets throughout Canada, so it's really important. But I think we should think of this as multilingual as opposed to bilingual. It'd be great to see standards that can incorporate Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, because Canada's a good next step. But I'd love to see more standardization in Europe too. On the technical side, it's fairly easy to design systems to ingest in multiple languages, particularly we have standards, and then you just have to think about it on the display layer too.
So what do you think we need to do next to allow organizations to implement that? That we have the background, we've got the rules, we've got the standards, but to make it simpler. And I love asking a question for a speaker that I didn't beforehand, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's a collective action that we have to take, right? So vendors have to encourage, particularly the Canadian MLSs, to adopt these multilingual standards. I think it's often the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, and so we do need to sometimes be the squeaky wheel to drive those standards forward. Broker members have an important role to play, and so I think continuing the outreach to Canadian tech providers and Canadian brokers, showing them, having them sort of advocate for that, I think that's the best way to move these standards forward, because it's not a top-down approach, it's by consensus and it's grassroots, and that's how you build it.
So you've done a ton of work on the data dictionary side. You've done work on the web API side. Obviously, your organizations will have many APIs, but that's one of the services that you work with. What are the opportunities that we have in the standard space at RESO, whether it's international, whether it's just at our core level, to bring more efficiencies to our customers going forward?
I mean, my suggestions, again, I think we are in that Goldilocks scenario. I think it's great that we've got different MLSs with different data. We don't have a single party that controls all the data in the US, and I think that's really good for innovation. We've got all the different brokerage models, we've got tons of VC money, we've got tons of tech companies. In terms, so I do think we've got a nice Goldilocks scenario where we've got the standardization, enabling cooperation and collaboration and cooperation among all those different MLSs. In terms of areas where I'd love to see more progress, again, it is that go fish problem that I talked about, making it clear what data is available for which use cases. I think that's really important as MLSs get better at that. I think it's going to be helpful for everybody. I think more work on what I'll call regionalization. So that's things like currency, things like different fields between zip code and postal code, language. Those are all areas to focus on. And I like the idea of how we talk about data coming back to the MLSs and how we can generate more insights. I think there's a lot that can be done there, so that in addition to being sources of listings, MLSs are also sources of insights to their agents and to their brokers. I think that's going to be really helpful.
Huge asset to us to have international organizations who understand just at the core boots on the ground what our members need internationally. We're going to hear a lot more of that. We've had a great relationship with the new REACH companies, but international REACH Canada, et cetera, MPAC in Ontario. So I think this is going to be a big theme for us going forward, is making sure that not just, as you said, not just bilingual, but multilingual availability of our data is there for our customers to bring those benefits. Thank you for being here, Andrew.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks very much for having me.